Hello, Dalhousie. Welcome. It is Giving Tuesday. We are here with the Food Security Project, and I am so incredibly honored to be back for my second Giving Tuesday event. Food security, I know you students know it is a big deal. 30 to 40% of all students report food insecurity. This is a huge deal. That's why I really love working with the Food Security Project. It funds student-led initiatives, the Dal Food Bank, the Agricultural Pantry. This is amazing stuff that I feel is so incredibly important. So I'm here today to talk about food security. More importantly, I'm here to show you a really simple, easy, nutritious meal that's not gonna cost you very much, that you can whip up. It's gonna make an amazing, fueling dinner tonight, but it's also gonna give you a ton of leftovers, and I really think you're gonna like it. And what we're gonna be doing tonight is a really easy, delicious Indian curry. It's lovely, it's deep, it's perfect for those cold winter nights, so let's get going here. I love this dish, super easy to make. Don't get too hung up on the exact ingredients I'm using. Pay attention to the method and use whatever vegetables or protein you have on hand. That's how I like to cook. Use up what you have, don't feel like you gotta use exactly what I have. I'll talk through some of the ingredients, and then we'll get cooking. Everything starts rolling pretty quick. As a base for this dish, I'm gonna be making some basmati rice. Basmati rice, lovely ingredient, love the flavor of it, pairs perfectly with Indian curries, and it's not very expensive. You can get it at any grocery store. So we'll get this going on a back pot here. So I've got a cup of basmati rice. I'm going to get 2 cups of water, so it's a 2-to-1 ratio. I'm gonna pour in the 2 cups of water into a pot, and then I'm gonna add in the 1 cup of basmati rice. And I'm gonna put the temp on high and bring everything up to a boil. Once that boil is reached, I'm gonna put the top on it, reduce the temperature to low, and let it simmer for exactly 12 minutes. At that 12-minute mark, turn off the heat, remove the pot from the actual heat itself, and just let it sit there, and it'll be the best rice that you ever had. So 1 minute to bring it up to boil, and then once boil is hit, put the top on, let it boil, let it simmer on low for 12 minutes. So I'm gonna get that going, and then we're gonna meet right back here and start talking about getting this curry rocking and rolling. Okay, let's talk curry here. So this curry is going to be deep and luscious and lovely, using ingredients that are just available all year round. So nothing too fancy here. We'll talk about the ingredients first. So the foundational elements of a curry, specifically an Indian curry, you're gonna be looking at onions. I've got red onions. You could use yellow onion, any onion that you have access to, grab it. I'm gonna use a full onion. We're gonna dice this up nice and thin into little dices, and we'll get that prepared for the curry. I've got some ginger. Ginger, not expensive, an amazing foundational element to add in a lot of your cooking, so we're gonna dice that up as well. We've got some garlic. Those 3 things can make anything that you make more delicious. They're absolutely imperative. If you're making Southeast Asian cuisine, Indian cuisine, you're gonna see that as a foundational element. So always when you're at the grocery store, grab some garlic, grab some onion, grab some ginger, and it makes making something tasty that much easier. So those are gonna be the foundational elements that we're gonna use into the curry. So once everything comes up to temp, we're gonna pop that in. From a perspective of spices, what we're gonna be using, I've got some Garam Masala. So this is an Indian spice mixture. You can get this at any grocery store. It's not expensive. It's a blend of different spices. So when you smell it, you get that cinnamon, you get that 5-spice, really lovely flavors in here at deep. Each family, from the reading that I've been doing, would have their own Garam Masala mixture, but this one's a really great one and not expensive, very easy to have. As far as other spices that I'm gonna use, I've got a cinnamon stick that I'm gonna toss in. I've got some cumin and some smoked paprika. Nothing fancy, all stuff that you can get at grocery stores really anywhere, but this will help add some flavor to this curry dish. Obviously, we'll need some salt as well. So adding in the kind of the base note is we've got those spices. We're gonna add a little fat in. I've got some just canola oil, a little bit of butter, just to add in that fat as a starting point. From the vegetable perspective, use whatever you got. I had a cauliflower that was going a little bit sideways, so use that food waste. Do not throw that out. Use that food waste. This is still beautiful flavor. I'm gonna be using that. And I've got some leftover kale, so I'm gonna chop that all up, but use whatever you have, eggplants, tomatoes, literally any vegetable or bean and legume you have, haul them out. This is a great way to use up anything in your fridge that might be going a little bit sideways. From a protein perspective, I'm gonna use some chicken breast because I had some in the fridge. Don't feel like you need to. This could, if you add in some chickpeas, this would be lovely vegetarian dish. I'm gonna use that, but don't feel any pressure to use it if you don't have access to it, no problem. And then as far as what's gonna be making up the bulk of the curry, I've got some crushed tomatoes. So this is probably 99 cents to $1 at a grocery store. So grab crushed tomatoes, and I've got a can of coconut milk. So you wanna get a coconut milk that has a higher fat percentage, ideally, but if that's not accessible to you, coconut milk, again, about $1 per can. So that's what we're gonna be using. So that we have the pot coming up to temperature. We're gonna add in the spices and everything first, but we got a little bit of prep to do before we get there. So let's start off, because I do have a little bit tip with the ginger. With ginger, it's a lovely, lovely flavor. I love it so much. But we just gotta prep it. So getting the peel off the outside of the ginger, dead simple. You're gonna want about 1 inch of ginger. You can just use a spoon. Drag the spoon around the outside of the ginger itself, and the peel will come right off lickety-split, no problem at all. Even if you just wanna keep it on there, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes I do it, but it just gets a little bit of that excess off the outside. So that's looking good. We're gonna discard that off to the side, put that in the compost, and I'm just gonna slice this relatively thin. You wanna dice it up as small as possible, but again, do not stress. This is just, we're making dinner here. It doesn't have to be fancy. Things don't have to be perfect. I'm just gonna give this a quick dice. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing with the garlic. So I'm gonna get that relatively small, but it won't make you guys sit and watch me just dice the whole time. We're gonna get that ginger prepared. That's looking good. So now I'm just gonna slice relatively thin some red onion. Again, with this, you could also do any type of onion. You can dice this up if you wanted to. We can keep it kind of whole like this. I might keep it whole, like the long strips. I think that would kind of pair nice with the kale that I'm gonna be adding in there. Onion is just a great foundational flavor element. Always grab a bag of onions when you're there. They're cheap, they're delicious, and they just really add so much flavor to whatever you're cooking. All right, that's looking great there. And the last piece is garlic. Oh, we got a boil here going, folks. So I'm gonna turn that down to low, put the top on. I'm gonna set a timer for 12 minutes, and that will be done in 12 minutes time. No problem there. So now I'm gonna put in 3 cloves of garlic. If you like garlic, add in more. If you don't like garlic, feel free to omit. So I'm just gonna add these really quick in here. I'm gonna dice these relatively thin. The cool thing with all of this is you can spend the time dicing these, making them very small, or if you have a hand blender or a blender or food processor, we can pour the entire curry into that, minus the vegetables and the protein, to blitz it nice and smooth so you get that really creamy, smooth curry. But I kind of like a chunky, almost stew-like curry sometimes. All right, I'm wrestling with that there a little bit. All right, so we're just gonna give this a quick chop. I'm not gonna spend too much time. I'm in my head right now, I'm picturing like, okay, Andy, you're a student, you just had a midterm, you wanna get back, you wanna eat something healthy, get you ready to study, and kind of prepared for the grind that it can be being a student. So this is great fuel. I know you don't have a lot of time available to you. This is something that still allows you to eat healthy, eat something delicious that's sustenance, but I'm also trying to make enough that I can eat tomorrow as well, and this is a great recipe to do that. So we've got the garlic ready, we have the onion ready, we've got that ginger close by, I've got the waste just over here. I'm just gonna get that into this little cup and out of the way, try to work as clean as possible, set that off to the side. We can see some of that smoke coming off the pan, so we know that that is to temp. Okay, so here's where it gets very exciting. And we'll prep the protein and the vegetables coming up, but we're gonna need some time anyway. So I've got all of that ready to go. I've got my spices directly in front of me. First things first, what we're gonna do is add in some of the fat into the pan. So the fat I'm using, again, canola oil. Whenever you're cooking on relatively high temperature, you're gonna wanna use canola oil or it'll smoke out your entire dorm or apartment. So I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon or 2 into the pan itself. I'll give that a little bit of a, turn right off there. We'll get this back going here. So there we go, we're good, we're back to it. So we've got that in there, that you can see that pan is quite hot. I'm gonna add in a little bit of butter. Not necessary if you're gluten-free or dairy-free, sorry, not gluten-free, dairy-free. You can just omit the butter, no problem. So that fat is in there. Fat is absolutely imperative for making flavor. So what I'm gonna do is start flavoring that fat. So I'm gonna add in a cinnamon stick, totally optional, don't feel like you have to use that, but it will add to the flavor. And now I'm gonna add in a little bit of that garam masala, just a touch about, let's say about a teaspoon of that garam masala, get that in there. I'm just gonna grab a spoon really quick and give that a little bit of a spin around. And now what we'll do, we got some heat coming out of there, Bradley. I'm just gonna pull that off the heat a little bit. We got a little hot, which is no problem. If you see that it gets a little hot like that, just pull it off the heat. And now I'm gonna dip in with the onions, ginger, and garlic. Now this is a moment that I love cooking, or why I love cooking. So delicious. The flavor is unbelievable. The smells are fantastic. Just filling my whole house with all the aromas. So we're just gonna let that kind of saute away for about 5 or so minutes. We're gonna open up some windows because we're getting smoky in here. I had the pan a little hot. And then we'll give that about 3 or 4 minutes just to saute away. And then we'll start adding in more spices, add in that crushed tomatoes. But it's coming along, folks. The smell in here is spectacular. We'll be right back. Okay, so some of that steam came down a little bit. That's looking good. We got some beautiful color in there. You can see that those onions are starting to soften up a little bit. We're getting some great aromas out there. So what we're gonna do now is add in some more of the spices. So still with that garam masala, an absolutely crucial spice to have and cook with. I'm gonna add in probably another 2 tablespoons of that garam masala. You want that pan to be hot while we're adding in the spices because it's gonna wake up the spices, toast them up a little bit. I'm gonna add in about a tablespoon. You guys will have the exact measurements below. About a tablespoon of cumin, and then about a half tablespoon of smoked paprika. We're gonna keep the spice list relatively small, and it's all stuff that's very accessible, all stuff available at really any grocery store. These are great things to have in the pantry. Having a well-stocked pantry actually makes it much easier to eat healthier. So if you can grab a couple spices, grab these like secret ingredients that just make it easier to make really anything taste better, highly, highly recommend it. So again, garam masala, a little bit of cumin, a little bit of that smoked paprika. All right, that's looking really good there now. So what I'm gonna do is prep up some of this cauliflower. So the cauliflower might need a couple minutes there to kind of get cooked. So I'm just gonna give this a chop, just a rough chop here. And then before I add in any of the liquid as far as the coconut milk or the crushed tomatoes, I wanna make sure that this cauliflower gets in and has some time to get comfortable, get cozy with those onions and the rest of those spices. So pop in that head of cauliflower. Again, if you have broccoli, if you have a potato, that's all good. That works perfectly. Don't get too hung up on the exact ingredients I'm using. It's more the methodology. Start with those foundational elements of garlic, ginger, and the onion. Add in the spices, and then we can layer in with whatever vegetables that you have access to. So I still have that cinnamon stick in there. I'm just gonna remove that because you can see it did get some of the color. It flavored the oil, so you're gonna get that flavor on the tongue, but I don't want it to get bitter in there, so I'm just gonna remove that cinnamon stick. All right, we'll give that a little bit of a move. I'm gonna chop it down a little bit, let that saute. I might even add in just a touch of water to give that a little bit of steam, just to loosen up that and soften the cauliflower a little bit. You can hear that coming through there. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's looking good. Now I'm gonna prep up some of the kale that I have. So I'm just gonna keep the stems on. I'm really, really all about trying to reduce the amount of food that I waste. So instead of picking the stems off, there's so many nutrients that are in those stems. Just keep them on. That's what I would say. Maybe cut them a little thinner. But as this curry sautés and cooks down, those stems are gonna give way, and they're just gonna add like a nice texture play. But I wouldn't spend too much time kind of ripping those off. Just gonna pop those in. I'm getting the smell already. This is coming in lovely. We'll adjust the seasoning as we go. We can add in more of that garam masala. If you have turmeric's lovely. I didn't include it in the original recipe, but another lovely ingredient to add in. Okay, that's looking really good. So again, if you wanted to add in a protein, you can absolutely do that. There's a few different ways that we can do the protein. We can saute it in a pan. We can chop it up. We could barbecue it. You can grill it. We could even, if we just want to use one pot, you could even just drop the chicken into the gravy or the curry once it's totally made and let it poach in that mixture. That's what I'm gonna do here. You could probably hit it in the pan first to sear it up and then remove, but I'm okay with poaching this in there as well. Okay, so again, just to say where we're at, we have the rice on. We went in with those foundational elements of the garlic and the onion and the ginger. We added in the vegetables, all those spices. It's sauteing away. Now I'm gonna add in this can of crushed tomatoes. So in that goes. Again, super cheap, versatile ingredient. I always have crushed tomatoes in my home because it's very easy to make a pasta sauce, to make a curry, to make a shakshuka, all stuff that really just needs this flavoring crushed tomatoes. And you can make this yourself if you wanted to. A little bit tricky in the environment of a dorm room, but something that I always have close by and use a lot. All right, so I'm gonna give that a little bit of a mix. A lot of smells coming out of there, that's lovely. So now it's gonna become more of like a thicker curry sauce. Oh, making a mess in my kitchen here, I apologize for that. Now I'm gonna add in that full fat coconut milk. So this is gonna add like a sweetness to it. It's also adding in a ton of really healthy fats. Fat is what kind of helps you stay full, fat and proteins. So this is super important to add in. It's that healthy fat that we're looking for. It just makes it a little bit sweeter. It brings everything together, rounds out the flavor a little bit more, and I find it just pairs super, super well. So again, this is something that if we wanted to make a big bulk of this, double up these two ingredients. Put 2 of these in, and you can make a really, really enormous batch of this curry that could last all week. So I'm just gonna let this simmer for a little bit, just until that cauliflower is a little bit soft to the touch. Not to the tooth, not to the touch. So that's probably gonna simmer away for, let's say, 5 or 6 minutes. I'll show you exactly what that looks like when we come back momentarily, but this is looking good. I'm very excited for this. From there, we'll start doing some tasting, adjusting the seasoning, but we're in a very good spot. Okay, I'm switching it up a little bit with the chicken. We've got the curry simmering away. The rice is all done. I was going to slice up the chicken and add it in, but I've changed my mind. We're live cooking here, folks. I want some of that color. So what I'm doing here is I just put the chicken breast on the cutting board. I'm adding on a little bit of season, add a little bit of salt. Always season your food with kosher salt. It is flavor, so make sure that you always season any protein that you're cooking with. So from here, I'm gonna add in some of those spices that we've already been using. I'm gonna add a little bit of that Garam Masala on top. So this is just, I'm picturing this being served. You've got a bowl with rice, you put on that curry, and then you can lay across a sliced up chicken breast. So I think this will be really, really lovely. We can add a little bit of that cumin. We could add in, what do I got here? I've got a little bit of lemon zest. Lemon juice. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of a squeeze of that and put it directly over the chicken. This is just gonna add a brightness because a lot of those are deep, heavy flavors. This is something that will just add a lot of flavor to the chicken itself. So all I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna slice this relatively thin. I'm gonna drop this into a ripping hot pan with a little bit of oil in it, and then just saute it until it's cooked through. And I think it's gonna be beautiful on top of this curry. So we are very close. I'm gonna get this seared off on the back over here. I will meet you and we'll serve this up. I think we are very close. That was probably 15 minutes of cooking in real time. Super, super fast dinner to make. This will be enough for me to eat tonight and tomorrow, absolutely. Let's get this chicken done and let's plate up. Okay, I think we're good here. I just seared off that chicken. You see that beautiful color there. Our rice is nice and fluffy, totally done. I've been tasting the curry. The key thing with any curry, you're gonna wanna make sure that you taste really anything you're cooking, not just curry. Taste and adjust. Add a little bit of salt. Does it need a little bit of acid? Maybe some fresh lemon would take it to a whole new level. Taste, taste, taste. Trust what you think tastes good. So I'm just gonna give this one last taste. It's got a really good depth of flavor. Getting a lot of that ginger coming forward, that garlic, lots of vegetables in there. A great way to sneak in a ton of vegetables into your life. So we're there, folks. It's just time now to plate up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give this a quick little rinse. And what we'll do is I've got that rice. Again, I love this. Rice is a lovely thing to have in your fridge. Whether it's totally cooked, it stays very well. I'm gonna add this in. Again, this dish, I don't know the exact dollar amount that this would have cost, but it is not an expensive dish. Really, probably the most expensive part of it would be the protein in the chicken. We can omit that. We can make this totally vegetarian, adding in tofu or eggplant. A lot of different things we could add in there. I'm just gonna grab a bigger spoon. Okay, I just grabbed a big spoon. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take a good spoonful of this really, look at the vegetables in that one, nice color to it. Add that over top. Make sure you get lots of vegetables. Like this is a hearty serving of food. Like if you add some chickpeas in there, that would be absolutely lovely. Add a couple pieces of chicken over the top. You can get fancy if you want to, garnish with some cilantro. You could make like a little yogurt on top, easy peasy. All I'm gonna do now is just give this a quick slice, finish with a fresh little squeeze over the top of lemon juice. That, folks, is delicious, super nutritious, very, very economical to make. I really, really hope that you make this. I think you're gonna love it. I wanna hear from you if you do like it. Let me know if you like this or not. I'm gonna dig into this. Thank you all so much for joining me today on Giving Tuesday. It's amazing to see post-secondary schools from across the entire province come together for this super, super meaningful cause. It's absolutely incredible to see. The J&W Murphy Foundation has agreed to match any individual donation. So any dollar that you put forward gets doubled by this amazing, amazing contribution. So last year we were able to raise $40,000. And because all of you here today, we are well on our way to this year's goal of $50,000. So thank each and every single one of you. So if you want to give today, you can go to www.projectdal.ca/food security to donate. Please, please, please donate. Let's see if we can hit that $50,000 goal. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for giving to this very, very important cause. Again, I'm Andy Hay. Thank you for cooking with me, and we'll hopefully see you again next year. See ya.